they lined all the Jews up in the marketplace, and people were crying and yelling, and the Germans were screaming, and I was in that line. Close to my father. He held onto my hand. I was his little guy. And it was kind of squeezed together. I was in the middle, like I was being protected by people. And all I could see is just look up. I couldn't see left and right. And all I could see is sky, and I was kind of hoping I would be all right. And I was like saying to myself, it was almost as I was speaking to a guardian angel, saying, I'll be all right, I'll be all right. I'm a little kid, what do I know? Right about then, my father pushed me out of the line and said, go over there. There was in the distance a pile of bricks, and I started running. I heard shooting in the background. I don't think they were shooting at me, maybe they were, but there was shooting and crying, and I ran, and I was hiding between behind those bricks, and I got there. My sister Sarah was there already. So the two of us were crouched down, and we were watching those lines, and we saw what was happening. Pretty soon they started yelling, and they marched those lines in the direction of the train where the cattle cars were. They stuffed them into those cattle cars, 50, 75, 100 at a time. I was told there was lime on the floor. I read that, and it was terrible, and some people already knew what was going on. They might have left the children behind, little kids. It was, I read an account of somebody, a Polish person, wrote what happened in my town at that time. What I'm telling you is what I saw. Yes. I was not aware of what everybody else saw, but when I went back to Demblin, I got a book a man wrote by interviewing all these people.
Yes.
And what I'm telling you is what they did to my town and how they killed this lime I didn't know about. But the Polish person wrote that there was lime in there. And they saw anybody that didn't go, they were shoving with the bayonet. It's unbelievable. And one of them said he saw a person with a buggy, and the Nazi took with the bayonet, threw the baby up in the air. And this is not my word. This is,
yes.
This book was second bestseller or something like that in Poland. Anyway, so I read what happened to my town, but what I'm telling you is what I saw.
And that was the last time you saw your father? That was the last time you saw your family?
I saw they all went those lines. My sisters, my brothers, my friends, my cousins, we had a huge family. It all went in that direction. And of course, they were killed in the gas chambers. And that was it. Mm-hmm. That was it. And you know what? In my mind, little Sammy and Sarah are sitting behind those bricks. And I can still see them marching in the direction of the cattle car. And it's in my mind always, they're marching. That was my last vision of my whole world.
David and Rosa were not in that line. What happened to them? Where were they?
Rosa was working on the airfield. The town had the airfield I was telling you about, but the Germans continued to use that airfield. And they needed a lot of people. They needed a lot of people to work, so they had this concentration camp there for people to work and take care of the airfield. And Rosa was strong and beautiful, smart woman, and she was working there. She was, a matter of fact, she was a leader of a certain group. You know, they had little leaders, and she was working there. And David, he was with somebody else. I don't know. I don't remember who he was with. In my mind, he was in the lines, but I cannot tell you exactly where David is. I think my sister Rosa told him, put him with a friend of hers so that he would survive. I do not know that entire story. So in my mind, he is dead with everyone else.
And he never survived.
Never survived.
Do you know what happened to him?
From here on in, it's hearsay.
Yes.
Someone told my sister Rosa, was an ex-boyfriend, that David was in a place like Auschwitz, and he snuck out to steal a beet on the field, to go out, and that he was shot. That was hearsay.
And now Rosa and you, what happened?
Rosa became my angel. She was 14 years older, very dynamic woman, very dynamic. And she was beautiful, and I think she used her beauty too. Because when she worked on that field from time to time, she would bring back a few pieces of extra bread that she was able to sneak away from some German soldiers. She worked there, and subsequently that turned out to be good for me. Why? Because the Nazis came, remember I told you they came and they took away all the Jews?
Yes.
All the Jews weren't going to Demblin yet, so let me just come back to that. They came back another time with the same trucks to get the rest of the Jews. Well, I was outside playing with some kids or something, and Rosa was home with, because it must have been early in the morning, and she saw what was happening, and she said to Sarah and me, follow me, let's go. And we started running. We ran, you know, it was a small town and not too far were fields, you know, farm fields. And we were running up in the farm fields. We ran and we heard shooting going on in the background. And we continued to run until finally, we came to an outhouse by the farmers, not far from the farmers, a farmer's home.
Yes.
And we were sitting there quietly listening to what was going on. But the farmer saw us, came, ripped the door open and chased us out. I guess he must have been scared. He either didn't like Jews or he was scared that if they find him hide some Jews that he would get shot. That's what the Nazis did. So here we are, still shooting going on in the background. We run on the fields, and to my left I see Nazi soldiers with their helmets running along, you know, maybe a couple hundred yards away, and we're still running on the field. We see another farm. And this is so clear in my mind. And then we see a barn, and the barn on top had a board that was missing. I can still see it. And just below was a shorter building. And we decided we were going to get into that barn through that open. So I was pushed up first onto the little building. I clawed my way up into that hole, came to the other side. There was straw there, all the way to the top. My sisters followed me, and we buried ourselves in the straw. And we continued to hear the shooting. And guess what? Pretty soon, those barn doors were also ripped open.
Yes.
The Nazis came, you to her house! Jews, come out! We stopped breathing. We were buried ourselves in that straw. No breathing. They looked and looked. Eventually, they left. We went back to our town. I remember trying to get into our room, you know, and I said to my sister Rosa, what is that pile over there? She said, go to sleep. Okay, went to sleep. Got up the next morning, went out to see what that pile was.